Welcome to Snooze with Sam, and another adventure with Sam. You've all been enjoying these, so why stop? So welcome to today's adventure, which takes us to a place called Calaverick Castle. Today is a very cold day. You might be able to hear it in my voice throughout our little trip. The numerous times I am tensing against the cold. Just to put you at ease though, you do have nice warm clothing on. And let's just pretend that I also do. Or, figuratively, if I don't, it's just because I'm a hardy Highlander and we don't mind a bit of the frost in the morning. So good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, from wherever you are joining us from all around the globe. On this icy winter's day, you join me at the bridge of the main castle itself. Now let's paint the picture. You stand at what would have been the drawbridge back in the Middle Ages, over an enormous great big moat. Either side of the drawbridge are two cast iron cannons, set on their own individual trolleys of wooden wheels and ironwork fixings. They point south in defensive stance, up against any advances which may come their way. Beneath the bridge on which we're standing is the aforementioned moat. Deep with dark water, plunging down below into a place where there's no light. Reeds and freshwater grasses grow at the edge. But right up against the stonework of the castle itself, it is flush against the bricks. Like a perfect right angle, the water meets the base of the castle. So let's journey a lap around this castle and we can describe some more. So against the bracing wind, we're now walking on big grassy mounds which circumnavigate the whole castle in almost like a secondary wall. It's pretty clear it would have been a very difficult place to advance on in the 1200s. You can hear the wind whispering through the trees. I'm sure it's no surprise that these trees are largely leafless at this time of year. We're currently just bracing ourselves against a very high-speed storm. But despite that, it is the sunniest day today. There is hardly a single cloud in the sky, and if they are tiny little white wispy things. And they're gone as quickly as they arrived. Such is the speed of these winds. From where we stand now, we can look upon the westernmost wall of the castle, and on each side we have 2 tower turrets, nearly all complete. The brickwork has been meticulously maintained. Underneath the grey lichens which patch on the stones themselves, you can see the mixture of red sandstone and much greyer granite make up the majority of this castle. The towers rise high into the air, even taller on the northernmost, on which there are 2 rectangular windows leading through into what we can assume is a staircase. And on top of that tower, the remains of what would have been living quarters, for which there are fewer stones remaining now, have been much more open to the weather and the elements over the centuries. Let's keep walking along the grass. Trying to stoop out of this wind slightly, because I'm not sure about you, but my ears feel like ice cubes. The castle is in the shape of a triangle, so there are 3 sides to this castle, each one spanning for maybe 150 feet. As we round to the southern side, we can now see just across all the freshwater grasses in the southern moat that the wall that we face is largely gone, and we can see right inside to how the castle appears from the inner courtyard. Beautifully lit up by the sun, which is directly behind us, low in the sky, just shining through some of the trees, casting little twinkling shadows onto the ground in front of us. Here we can see 3 separate floors of what would have been, again, more kind of living quarters and places such as pantries and bedrooms and the kitchens. Set back from the outer defensive walls, people inside would have been safe from any threats on the outside. It's so interesting. On each of the 3 levels, the windows are separated by 3 or 4 bricks before the next one. So compared to most castles, there are so many apertures. Whenever you picture a castle, you tend to think very small little windows, maybe arrow slits. So few and far between, just providing as few places to gain entry as possible. And I guess that still is the case with this castle, but On the inside buildings, at least, there are just so many windows. It looks almost hospitable. As well preserved as this is, it still just exudes old and weathered. Very definitely a bygone era, but it's very easy to imagine people living inside there. What a beautiful castle. It was actually my dad that recommended that we take a trip down here, so you can thank him for this. Let's keep walking around the moat and see what else we can find. Just minding your feet on the slippery mud beneath the grass. It's quite a well-trodden path along here, so many boots and many feet have come walking, and it just gets a little muddy in places. As we leave the castle behind, on our left, over on our right we can see a lovely woodland which I think needs explored. So let's keep walking along these grassy banks and just drop down here on our right, just minding our step on the slope. Feel free to stick your arms out in case you fall. Just mind the big piles of leaves. You never know how deep they're going to be, that's the thing. And you can clamber up on the far side and up onto a little gravel path. And suddenly all falls quiet. In a brief moment of shelter and sunshine. Oh, that's better. Let's just pause for a minute here and just enjoy this little sun trap. We can admire the castle on the easternmost wall. The sun is maybe only 20 degrees off to the left. Okay, that was nice. We're a bit warmer now, at least. Let's go and see what's in the woods. As we walk along the gravel path, to our left, holly bushes and willow trees line the edge, making it feel very seasonal indeed. Can't see any berries on the holly yet, but no doubt they'll not be far away. Just have to try and not spike our fingers if you're feeling particularly inquisitive. We're now entering the woodland canopy. As you can tell by the number of leaves on the wood floor that have dropped from the trees above. such a cool, dry day that all the leaves underfoot are similarly crispy and so lovely and clean. Such a lovely, lush, rich woodland this. As always, there's such a variety of trees. This is beautiful. Very, very spiky little fir here. Doesn't even seem appropriate to call them fir, does it, when they're so needly. Can never resist but to go and poke your fingers in the branches regardless. More holly trees line the edge, as well as a couple of smaller bushes which still cling to their leaves as if they depend on it. If we look up just for a moment, you might be able to hear a flock of geese flying overhead. Just listen to them. All flying in semi-organised chaos. All chatting away with each other. Trying to generate some order. On a windy day like today, they're doing well to even maintain any form of shape in the sky. Constantly flowing like a shoal of airborne fish. I wonder where they're going. They're flying northeast anyway. Maybe just in search of a new field to pick around and eat grass. Let's keep going through the woods. And we're now aiming straight for where the sun is lying close to the horizon. On the path ahead, the sun's casting long, stretching shadows of trees that span for 10 times as long as the tree is actually tall, just from the angle where the sun is. On either side of the path, leaves of weeds and brambles and nettles are just being lit up by the sunshine coming through them from the far side. They're so very green. As with the ferns, look, off to our right. And the ivy. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Let's go and have a look at that. I always think that's just the most beautiful photographs. if you can ever get just nestled behind a bush but have the sun illuminate the leaves from the far side. The variation of colours it provides are just delicious, frankly. And you can see the little sun rays as they refract off the edge of the leaf and bend around the corners and then enter our eyes to create a little spectrum of sorts. I can never get enough of that. Let's carry on up the path a little more. Just enjoying the gentle heat of that sun when it hits you briefly before it disappears behind another tree trunk. And then you feel the heat again and the warmth just soak when you re-enter its rays. The full intensity of the sun never quite present, because it's just shining through these nests of tree canopies. Thousands and thousands of little twigs. You may also be able to hear the little bleating moos of distant cows. In a place like this, you're never too far away from farmland. But they seem like happy moos. Aha, what do we have here? We seemed to have stumbled across a second castle. Before us is quite clearly what used to be another moat, smaller than the first castle. The moat is again filled with long freshwater grass, but it doesn't look like there's any water beneath it, or if there is, it's probably a long way down. And just off to our right there is another little bridge, one that's been built to cross over into the middle where the castle used to be, and you can still see the foundations of where it lay. It seems like it's a four-sided fortification as opposed to the three-sided triangle of the castle we were just at. There's a sign here, just at the foot of the bridge to cross. The first Calaveric Castle. Ah, there you go. There was a first one, prior to the one that we've seen already. In about 1220, Sir John Maxwell, Warden of the West March, ordered the construction of this, the first Calaveric Castle. Excavations have revealed that this was one of the first stone castles to be built in Scotland. Wow, I didn't know that. Originally the castle stood at the head of a tidal inlet on the Solway. The sea level was higher than it is today. The first task for the castle builders was to create a rectangular platform using clay. Next, a bridge was built across the north side of the moat, and that's where we're standing just now. Two large buildings were constructed inside, connected by a covered walkway, so that hot meals from the kitchens were protected from the weather on their way to the Great Hall. Inside, Lord and Lady Maxwell entertained guests, dispensed justice, and carried out estate business. Dispensed justice, goodness me. I wonder what that means. 800 years ago. Nearly to the year. 801 years ago. Well, that was when the castle was ordered to be built at the very least. So let's read this bit. Why was the castle abandoned? This was a wet and muddy place to live. I can contest to that, mostly. Not today, sunny and cold. Despite the drains and foundations, the site was so wet that the buildings started to collapse. The Maxwells soon decided to build a new castle 200 metres to the north. I wonder where that is. We'll have to put that on the map. Tree ring dating from its bridge timbers suggests that this happened around 1277, to be precise. Surprised it doesn't say 1277. 14th of June at 6:30 in the morning. That's really interesting how they built a second. Let's go and explore this first. Let's walk along our wee path a little further to this bridge which crosses the moat. This bridge is maybe not quite so old as the first one, but it's still very ornate. Large pieces of timber having been used to create all the structure of this. Now as we arrive onto the grass where the castle once stood, we can now see that from the foundations there was a double skin layer, like an air gap in between the stones themselves of maybe 12 inches or so. Again, like the first castle, the stone seems to be largely red sandstone of bricks, maybe 18 inches by 10 inches in diameter. Over to our left, it's evident that there was one of the 4 corner towers. You can tell this by the fact that the inside foundations do have a right angle to them, but all the way around there is a circular, or semicircular I should say, 3/4 circular to be more precise, rock foundations of what would have been a tower. And you can see that for each of the 4 corners. This is fascinating. Through the centre there's a little cobbled path. I'd like to have thought that would have been there, but it's probably been put in since. And then as we walk over to the west side, again we can see the foundations on the ground of what would have been one of the internal buildings. There's a little sign on the ground over here. What does it say it was? Yep. The Great Hall. I can imagine this being a real room. It's enormous, even for somewhere built way back when. You can imagine everything that would have been adorned in this. The finest furniture and great feasts. And just off to the rear of this hall, another corner tower and the pantry. This would have been a phenomenal place to have entertained your guests or served your family food, or ordered justice, as was eloquently described. What an absolutely marvellous place this is. Especially on a day like today where the sun is shining all around us and picking out all of the treetops, almost in high definition. It just doesn't give anywhere for the detail to hide. Every little surface of each branch is picked out in almost iridescent luminescence. It's just so nice to enjoy the peace and quiet that this woodland brings, with the distant squawking of the geese. Ever since they flew over our heads, they've been pretty much ever present. The small tweets of birds, such as little robins and finches and wrens. Just a little chorus for us to drift off slowly to sleep with. The gentle hiss of the wind blowing through the large rushes which line the moat. Just concentrate on every little sound that you can hear. Just seeing all those small birds in your mind's eye. Just allow them to be created as an image in your head. Now you can just relax. And just as you hear all the Little sounds, the wind and the birds, and the honks of geese. You can just close your eyes and you can let me do the walking on the way back. You don't have to do anything now. You can just relax.